A British artist and creator, Kirstie McLeod, is responsible for a decade-long global embroidery project called the Red Dress. Between 2009 and 2019, a red silk dress made its way around the world, being continuously embroidered on by over 202 different artisans. Seed funding for the project was provided by the British Council. Now, embroiderers included refugees in Palestine, in Kosovo, Rwanda, Japan, Peru, as well as South Africa. Kirstie joins us now via Zoom. Kirstie, a very warm welcome to you. Great chatting to you. Now, how did the idea for this project come about, and what did you aim to achieve?
So I was commissioned to do a piece of work for Art Dubai back in 2009, and I was given funding by the British Council, which is a big deal as an artist when you get some funding. So it was really like, what would be my dream piece to create? How far could I go? And having spent my childhood living in various far-flung countries all over the world, I just really had this idea, like, how could I create a piece of work that would involve as many different cultures as possible, like a dialogue of identity. That's kind of the idea, and also just taking down the borders and the boundaries, creating one piece of work with all these many voices, women's voices from all over the world. And also the time aspect. Often the work I do is quite fast and quite quick, and in this case I was like, well, I want it to take several years and evolve very, very slowly over time. So there was always a 10-year goal in mind, but I never knew if I'd get there or not, and it was great that we did.
Now, what you mentioned, Kirstie, is the fact that you've lived in different countries around the world, and one of the objectives of this project, you said, in your notes here, is the fact that you wanted to create a piece of art that would transcend borders and be able to unite women from different countries. But you say that this project actually ended up being a whole lot more. In what way?
Because working with lots of marginalised communities, women, it became clearer and clearer that this dress was becoming like a platform or a way that these women could tell their stories and then be brought into a more global area and more a platform. So suddenly I was giving all these messages were coming to me saying, thank you so much for letting me tell my story. I really value this opportunity. And it was like, whoa, I didn't even think about this aspect. So now almost like the dress is so heavily embroidered with all these threads, but also the weight of all these incredible stories, these remarkable stories. And so now going forward, that's my mission, is to really get these stories out there and let these women's voices be heard.
It's amazing. It's like the dress took on a life of its own and became another form of art, which you hadn't initially intended. But looking at the stories that the women say they are telling, are there common threads that run through their narratives?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's been so remarkable. You know, mothers having children, struggling with motherhood, marriages, just day-to-day life, domestics, you know, just all this, the role of the women, which is just, you know, universal, global. But then also coming through, obviously, in countries where they've been through war and, you know, women living in poverty. There was a whole other realm there. Which was, you know, incredibly profound and moving. And a lot of these women really felt to share these stories in the cloth in the most poignant way, which was just very, very humbling. But yeah, the role of the women, you know, when you bring it down to the very core, so much of us are kind of having these same experiences in very different realities around us, but we're all one. You know, we all come together, we're all one.
And in as much as there were common stories, as you're outlining now, were there some experiences that took you off guard, that were unique, that you didn't quite expect?
Yes, absolutely. The one I'm thinking of straight away is from Rwanda. And it was a group of 8 very, very skilled women who do technically very, 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 you know, tiny, incredible stitches for a textile label in Belgium. And what came through to me in the post, because I received it through FedEx, I had to sit down and I was just welling up with tears, because what they created was actually done in a very naive way, and it depicts a little child in the middle in very, very kind of simple illustration, with a machete above the child's head in a tight ring of circles, black circles. So it's like, whoa. And then suddenly the circles become bigger and more expansive, and it turns into a rainbow and then into a sun. And they call the piece From Darkness to Light, and it was detailing the 10 years or so that these women had been through through civil war and losing family and children. But then through the work they've been doing, not just for the dress, for their embroidery work generally, not only are they now earning an income and can buy houses and have their own lives, but more importantly even, they've got community and they've got healing, which is now happening. The shared experience with so many women coming together and sharing their stories through stitch.
Let's talk a bit, Kirstie, about the logistics of how you actually got this done. How did you identify these 202 women?
So initially, it was just every contact I could pull. So just friends of friends. I used to tutor at the Royal School of Needlework just outside London, so that was very helpful. And then it was a lot of social media, Googling, and then after a few years, people would then start contacting me, which was lovely, and saying, oh, I've heard about this dress, can I add a piece? I'm from Norway, or, I'm from Sweden, I'd love to do this. And then that was really lovely. And then just either sending out sections of the dress or panels of the dress, and in a few cases, the whole dress itself. So very organic, the whole process.
And how much time did each embroiderer have to work on their part of the dress?
So there was never any time limit unless there was a particular reason that the dress had to be collected by someone to come back on a plane or something. So I think in that instance, that person had a month, but otherwise it was however long it took. Some of them took many, many, many months. I think even one of them was 2 years. So yeah, there was no time limit because the project I knew it was going to be so long, there was no rush.
And what is it that gave you the comfort of saying, I've got 10 years to do this? You gave yourself a whole decade, and the truth is nobody actually knows how long they're going to be alive. So I guess you were hoping that you'd still be alive to see the end of this project. But why such a long time span?
I think because it just goes against so many principles of our society, especially in fashion. Everything is so fast and, everything is so quick. And the idea of just slowing it right down. But, you're right. It was like, will this project end? Will I still be here? Will it be able to finish? Will there be people who want to take part in it? It was all so uncertain. But I just had this 10-year goal in mind, which was lovely to not have to rush, actually. And because I was doing it alongside earning money with other ways, I couldn't do it full time anyway, so it was always just this project on the side.
Look, it certainly sounds like a work of passion and a work of love, and you literally just poured yourself, and the women just poured themselves into this project. But you mentioned earlier on that you'd courier parts of the dress and sometimes the whole dress via FedEx or some other courier system. Were there ever any concerns that the dress perhaps could get lost in the toing and froing, or perhaps even being destroyed as it makes its way around the world?
Yeah, so the dress would never travel without me. I would only send that if I was with it, so that was by my side. But yeah, absolutely with the sections. And one did get lost for 7 months, coming from, was it Canada, I think it was. And I almost gave up hope. And then suddenly she phoned me. She's like, oh, it's been sent back to me. It went to my neighbours and So that was so exciting when that finally came back. So no, it's nerve-wracking, definitely, and I always have to just spend as much money as I can on getting it there in the safest of ways. But when I travelled to Mexico with the dress recently, the dress had to have its own trunk on its own seat in every plane we went on. It's just unbelievable because I just couldn't let it out of my sight. So it became quite famous in the airport when I was going through.
So Kirstie, who is funding the project?
So the first year was the British Council in Dubai, which was fantastic. And then over the years, there's been quite a few private art collectors or embroidery enthusiasts who have just said, look, have some of this money towards the project. But most of it for the last 6 years has been self-funded, which is another reason why I had to go so slowly.
well, at least you didn't need another 10 years to get it done.
Exactly.
But now that you've got this beautiful work of art, which really looks like it should either be on the runway and then from there find its way into a museum somewhere, what is the fate of this dress? Where to from now?
So I've had a lot of offers for exhibit, which is very exciting. So I think it's going to go on a tour, a world tour, which should be really, really great. And I believe coming to South Africa in 2 years' time, I think it is, for a big festival, which should be great, a big textile festival. And then there's a documentary film which is currently about to be edited. So it was filmed over the last 18 months, which will really get the stories out there. And then hopefully a book after that. So I think probably for the next 5 years it'll be touring and being exhibited. that's the point of it, really, to be enjoyed and to be felt and to be experienced. And then, yeah, maybe to come to rest in a lovely museum somewhere. That would be great. Be enjoyed.
Well, Kirstie, it's an absolutely beautiful dress. I wonder if it would fit me. I wonder if I'll be able to fit into that beautiful dress. It's absolutely amazing. And will you be touring with the dress as well?
As much as possible. I have 2 small children, so it's going to be probably bits of both. And also with everything with COVID at the moment, travel restrictions are pretty limited, so we'll have to just see how it goes. But I think it's going to be going to the States first, doing quite a few different countries there, and then hopefully make its way around.